Goodnight Moonshine is a guitar and vocal duet and a musical marriage in all senses. The duo combines the evocative voice and songwriting of Molly Venter with Eben Pariser's adventurous guitar playing. The result is folk music with a depth of improvisation and tonal subtlety usually reserved for jazz. All according to the Goodnight Moonshine website. Hello, Eben and Molly. Thank you
Hi,
for
Mark.
joining me today. I want to start by saying that you wrote the anthem that has guided my post-divorce life. Settle Down, I think, should be required listening for anyone going through a divorce or a relationship transition of any kind. A reminder not to make the mistakes you've already made, I think. That's what it means to me, at least.
That's incredible to hear. That's really wild. And I am glad to hear that. And I mean, certain people have said, divorce is always good news, but it's got to be hard when you're going through it. And I certainly wrote the first couple of albums of my personal life about just really intense breakups. And it's funny because we're on here talking about the Black Bear festival that's coming up, and Ian Campbell, who runs Black Bear, was an early fan of my early break. He would say like those songs got me through whatever my, I don't know if it was a divorce too, but and then I hadn't heard that for a long time because I've been in a different space of processing different things. But so to hear that again is kind of really touching. Yeah. And awesome how we can take the meaning that is most like pertinent to us from a song, even if it's not specifically about divorce.
Hmm. Now, have the two of you been married for about a decade now?
It's the first time anyone has asked that question. You would be correct.
Mhm.
We just celebrated our 10th wedding anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
You seem very happy together. At least on camera, you always seem happy.
It, we won't run the camera if we're not happy. I mean, we may have in the past run a little audio recording of us being very unhappy to sort of prove who was worse later, but we haven't had to do that in a while. We're getting better.
Tactic never really worked though because neither one of us had any interest in ever hearing the playback, so it just sat there.
But it would kind of make the other one really mad when one would pull out the phone and press record. That's what
I'm recording this.
I'm recording this.
Just ridiculous. That is not a relationship tip.
No, no.
Now, have you had to remind each other of the wisdom in your lyrics of Settle Down?
What,
Well, what's that song even
what
about?
is it about anymore? No, I don't want to settle down is sort of like a play, a little bit of a pun, like I don't want to settle, I don't want to settle down.
Hmm.
I've even written a new verse to that, to be honest. If you see us play now, you'll hear a new verse and you're like, wow. Um, so, I mean, tell me what advice comes back at you, Mark, that you remember
Just,
from that
I
song.
think, to kind of help maintain that initial limerence and remind yourself constantly throughout a relationship that it's something you have to work at and together.
Yeah,
You can't just take it for granted that the limerence you feel early on in a relationship is going to last forever.
that's right. Yeah, you're going to keep changing, and hopefully you each change in a way that is like close enough, but that
Mm.
doesn't always happen. And there's a little bit of like grace and that goes along with that. Like we can't even guarantee that we'll keep changing in a way that's compatible, but so far we have. It's been really messy at times, but so far we sort of take turns freaking out at this point, and and then it's the other one's turn to freak out, and we can hold space for each other. That's how I think about it at this point, Evan. How do you think about it?
That's deep.
I think about it more like, well, it's a pretty exciting song, really, because look, it's sort of a laundry list of things that didn't happen we didn't get out of our system before we got married. But then the punchline is like just because we got married doesn't mean we have any intention of giving that stuff up.
Mm.
Right.
And so it's kind of an exciting promise or an exciting sort of like uh, prayer in a way.
Yeah.
Some of the things that we hadn't done, we have now done. Sometimes it feels like you write yourself alive, like you
Hmm.
write your own story, and it becomes a prayer or a wish or an incantation that's sort of in ways that feel kind of less linear and more spectacular or mystical. I look back, and I say, holy cow, like we sort of you wrote that into truth. I didn't really think
Yeah.
that was going to happen, but you sort of put it out there. And so now looking back, it's like we wrote our future.
And yeah, we're both like really honest, open book type people, and so it's nice when you get to turn it into some creativity for other people to appreciate. But it has been essential to us to just sort of like keep a very open dialogue throughout all of our incarnations.
What's really interesting about that song is like we never really got it to hit live, and we're still
Hmm.
struggling to get it to hit live.
Hmm.
And that was always like a real really like big bummer, because it was like is sort of like such a, the single from the record, and such a statement, and what we were trying to hang our hats on with that 2018 record. And like it was tough to play it live. And now we're still kind of workshopping it, but through the lens of a more sort of psychedelic approach, and treating it almost a little bit more um, like a like a medicine song. I mean, our version of medicine song. I mean, the references would be like some of that really sort of spooky, sort of a mysterious kind of magical David Rawlings type playing. Or but that's just a fancy way of saying whatever it means when there's a sort of like a trance feeling in folk music, like a real deep trance sort of spiritual feeling in folk music, which honestly is present in a whole bunch of real traditional folk music, i.e. cultural music of different areas have their own spins on these sort of spiritual trance songs, right?
Mhm.
And that's sort of the trappings that seem to really be working for the tune. And it's also really fun because it's like I believe the magic of it because I've seen some of it come true. And so that's like we struggle a lot more, I think, with just maintaining. We don't struggle with settling down.
Hmm.
There's nothing settled down about our
Yeah.
existence whatsoever. We struggle more with just maintaining the youthful, like all-encompassing connection that we had when we were younger.
Mhm.
But there is zero, so far zero risk of settling down. And sometimes someone will posit, maybe we should just do this. And it's funny because we never put it in the context of the song and be like, so you're ready to settle down? But we should probably start
Yeah, we
saying
should
that.
say that to each
Start
other.
saying that to
Like,
each
are
other.
you suggesting
So
we settle down?
are you suggesting?
Because obviously that's not going to happen.
That's off the table.
Good.
Hmm.
I love the playful style of that song as well, and your other songs too, or at least like "What Do You Want to Know"
Hmm.
feels like a touch of humor to help lighten up lyrics that might leave others as vulnerable. I
Yeah.
imagine the song being for like somebody, people in a new relationship and contemplating taking it to something more intimate.
Yeah, that's exactly the what do you want to know? It was exactly that. I actually wrote it thinking about my mom. So my dad had passed away, and my mom was turned out really good at online dating, like way better than any of my friends. She is very extroverted. She's like, it's great. It's like an interview. She worked in admissions in a school. It's so fun. So anyway, she was like meeting all these people a couple years after my dad had passed, um, and I was thinking, yeah, I was like sort of maybe imagining myself as her. And also, I lived in Austin, Texas for 10 years, and all the women there, and the older women too, they were so I won't swear, they were so radical. They were just so cool, and they were still so embodied, and maybe they were like 65, but they were vibrant and dancing, and I just was like, yeah, that's sort of what I'm aiming for too. Speaking about writing a future for yourself that you want to live into. I mean, we could talk about how the culture doesn't support, or it's an ageist industry or yada yada, but it's like, well, what about just being the thing that I want to be? Like, I hope by the time I'm 65, I feel so good about it that I don't even need to talk about the culture, because I am just showing up being that version of myself. And I got to see that with women in Austin I was dancing with, and I got to see that in my mom in like a different way. And so, yeah, but the playful element of it is fun.
Yeah, I just had this really, really interesting thought, and I never quite put together before around that song. Just the idea that in some ways, I've been infatuated and felt a lot of connection to African American music since before I knew it was even since before I knew what it was. Those are just some of the records I was exposed to very early, and had a sense of love for that music and connection to it. And Molly much less so, but like I think I pushed that track and sort of like I was like, this is you kind of channeling like the Bessie Smith vibe in your own way. And I just see this connection with like at the level of body, people walking, or like a reclamation of the body, and people walking around in bodies that are judged or deemed less than, or were, and it's a cool way for a white girl to sort of like work with some of that material in a way that doesn't like appropriate anything, or like, or presume to step into something that they don't know anything about,
Right. I mean, I would
Cool.
say, yeah, I mean, I would say like black women are ahead of the curve, or ahead of in this way, because right, if they've gotten messages from being young that their bodies are less beautiful or something, and then they're just like, actually, no, it's just as beautiful as anyone else's, and so they embody it before they wait for culture to tell them. And then in the same way, you could kind of see a
Hopefully, I
parallel.
would
Oh yeah, hopefully.
careful about anybody being ahead, but
Right. I just, well,
but if things there's an offering there that potentially if you have the right resources to take advantage of, you're going to learn a lot earlier as a person of color that you better not give an F what society calls beautiful, right?
hmm It's an interesting way to look at it, and I see the connection, like kind of the Bessie Smith. That makes sense, yeah. One other song I wanted to talk about, your latest single, "My Sister Evangeline." Line, I mean, is it line? Yeah,
I think
line.
it's Evangeline. Yeah. Well, actually, I think in other parts of the country they say Evangeline. You're right, but I say Evangeline.
I think you wrote that it's a love song about family patterns and self-actualization. Do you feel that there isn't enough songs out there about non-romantic relationships?
Oh, sure. There aren't very many at all. I think it's a really hard one for us to navigate. I think,
How many songs are there about those? I mean, Chris Christopherson just passed, and that's a pretty cool song. That's a non-romantic song.
which
His
song
Bobby McGee, right?
seems romantic to me, but
Is
maybe
it?
it's not.
It's unclear whether it's romantic. It's unclear, right? If it's
But there aren't a lot of songs. I mean, and there's starting to be more songs about maybe a father or a child, but yeah, a sibling relationship. I think a lot about how, I mean, it's a cool experiment how we, especially in America, can be so individualistic, and we can live on our own, and we can work jobs we want to, and we can, keep our house exactly the way we personally want to keep it. So there's all these ways that we can just, yeah, walk our own line. But then it's almost like the family is the only area where we might still have to kind of coordinate and collaborate. I see that in our family anyway. Like, oh, I didn't really have to be so careful with my clothes and my dishes before I got a partner, before I had kids. And now we all have to try to get along together.
Hmm.
And it's sort of, in a way, it's sort of more comfortable to go it on your own. And it is. But so what comes up when you're forced to work things out together? In a lot of other relationships, you can walk away. And we can walk away from family. We can become estranged. And so what does it look like? I mean, yeah, what does it
But
look like?
maybe we're not designed. Maybe we're
Well, yeah,
not designed to be to that level of autonomy, or the illusion of that level of individuality and autonomy is maybe like a crisis. Like maybe we're not designed to actually be able to walk away from family. Maybe that wasn't maybe that's only a product of sort of modern society.
It is. I mean, I just see it as all part of like an interesting evolution, an interesting life unfolding, having different experiences. So it's a cool experience to be able to individuate like that and what is lost. And so now when you bring it back and say, okay, well, what happens? I'm just saying, like, some of us have baby skills in this regard because of the way we've been living. Oh, so what does it mean to have to find common ground and to not be able to walk away? Of course, if you need to walk away, you can, thank God.
Mm.
But if you sort of want to maintain the relationship, then it might go, you might have to rupture, repair, rupture, repair. And this is, I guess, like a song a little bit about that and sisterhood.
Ah, giving me
Yeah.
a lot to think about now.
Yeah, good. That's our aim.
I love your music. You're going to be performing at the Black Bear Americana Music Festival coming up on Saturday, October 12th. And this is not your first time, but I think it's going to be the first time that I get to see you. I missed you last year, or
No,
you
last
weren't
year,
there last year.
that's right.
Yeah.
It'll
So,
be great.
do you have any favorite memories of previous times there?
Yes, we brought our son who's 9, and he's actually like knocking at the door to get some kind of device from us.
Snacks?
But he was younger. He was probably 5 before, and he remembers getting his face painted and staying up late and watching the fire twirlers. And
Mm.
so he keeps being like, "When is Black Bear? When do we get to go back to Black Bear?" So he's really excited. And then we got 2 5-year-olds in the mix now. So we're bringing a babysitter and a gaggle of kids, and it's a really so it's. It's just I think the West Coast and Colorado and maybe Canada, they have so many opportunities like this for families to be together with non-families and to all have fun together and to be
Mm.
creative and expressive. Often it seems like, oh, there's festivals that are one or the other. Like they're sort of dorky and they're just for families and kids, or they're like Coachella and you're not going to bring a kid there. That's,
Right.
crazy. So this is really wonderful, bringing all the different generations together, and there's different styles of, there's different types of bands for everybody's taste, and
Mm.
yeah,
That's
I
what I
remember.
love about the Black Bear is it's got that community feel to it, and it's like the perfect size. It's not too big,
Yes,
and it does have that family friendly atmosphere.
yeah, and it feels safe. Frankly, I mean, we're a little weird like this, but if our kid goes missing for a couple hours, like we're not freaking out. He just found some stuff over here to play with, and everyone's friendly and he's 9, it's fine.
He's
But
9.
yeah, yeah. And they get to feel like, oh wow, some freedom. And I just explored. I think that's actually what kids love so much, is to feel freedom. And they weren't watched over like a hawk every second. And they just
Yeah.
had their own adventure while we were having our adventure.
Cool. Um, would you like to play a quick game?
Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
whoa. Yeah. That just
Thank God.
Evan's the guy for this.
Oh, good. I think you're gonna do well.
I doubt it's competitive, honey.
Well, I just mean like I'll like get too anxious. You go.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I thought you were gonna get too competitive.
I will.
Okay,
Uh,
so try to beat me.
Okay.
here's the name of the game is Lyrical Ponderings. I
Uh-oh.
will give you a song title. The song title is in the form of a question.
Oh my goodness.
You can
Whoa.
either tell me who sang this song or answer the question.
Jeez.
Give me a number between 1 and 201.
201.
Aha.
That's what you're working with here.
Where am I? Where am I?
Whoa.
I'm gonna answer the question. I am experiencing an integration of electrical chemicals that simulate or stitch together moment in reality. Presumably, that moment of stitching is occurring inside of my brain and is extrapolating sensory information across my whole body and all my senses. And as far as I know, my body's sitting on a floor in a house in Connecticut, which is a region of land that was once Quinnipiac land and now is American land. And that is all on this planet Earth, which floats in vast nothingness, solar system, surrounded by billions of other galaxies.
That's a very detailed answer. That was originally that's a song by a local artist, Amanda Melly.
Ah, and that's in the name of that is also the name of the song. Where am I?
Yes, where am I?
All right, let's go number one then. I see how this is working.
All right.
Now number one. Okay.
What becomes of the broken-hearted?
What becomes of the broken hearted? Ugh, well, you know, it's
Linda
a
Ronstadt or something? What the hell?
no, but it is sort of like a question. There's two things that can become of the brokenhearted. They can just
Isn't there a modulation in that song?
yes, there definitely is a modulation in that song. We can either that heart. Do you know the Japanese art of filling those cracks with gold and making the pottery even more beautiful than before? Yeah, yeah. So we either that heart it breaks open, so then it becomes, you know, bigger and more beautiful and more human, or sometimes brokenhearted, you know, it just seals itself off and it gets really, really afraid to love again, and that's a bummer when that happens. But it's definitely the number one is also an option at all times.
That's a great answer.
Thank you.
That song was done by Jimmy Ruffin.
Jimmy Ruffin. No one knows that.
I didn't
That's a
know.
great question.
Amazing. All right, number two.
Another one? All right.
You don't have to air these all. Just pick mine.
Do you really want to hurt me?
Do you really wanna hurt me? It's somebody
You know that
weird
song?
like David Byrne or like it's like somebody like or like 80s kind of sort of showmany ooh, doo, doo, doo. But it's not Leonard Cohen. That's not him, but it's like somebody kind of playful but very dark
Huh.
and like yeah, sort of show tuney. Okay.
No, the answer is
But
no.
the answer is no on
I
that.
don't
Just
really
a
want to hurt you.
hardcore no.
Not right now, anyway.
Except sometimes we agree with the Randy Newman song that it's just like, I just want you to hurt like I do. That does happen on occasion in our house. Let's be clear. But right now, we do not want to hurt Mark or the listener or each other.
That's good. That was the Culture Club.
The Culture Club. See, I
You
couldn't
see, you're too young for that. You're too
no, I
young
couldn't
for
tell you
that.
any other of their songs, but that's a big hit.
Well, thank you, Eben
So
and
fun.
Molly. I can't wait to see you at the Black Bear Americana Music Festival coming up on. You're going to be there on the 12th, Saturday,
Yes.
correct?
Yep.
Are
We'll do
you-
some workshops that are super cool
I
and
was
we'll
going to
do
say, are you going to do any workshops?
yeah. And yes,
We're there the 10th for the Thursday night stage too, and then we're there again on Sunday. We're doing a bunch of late night stages or a handful of late night stages on Saturday, as well as the main stage slot at like 2 p.m. I think, and then there's
workshop on Sunday.
workshop on Sunday. So
That'll
we're
be really fun. So yeah, we'll be around.
Awesome.
omnipresent.
We'll look for you, Mark.
I will be there. Thank
Awesome.
you, Molly and Eben. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for a great interview, Mark. Appreciate it.